and welcome everyone to Quality Sewing and Vacuums Sew Fun Facebook Live. Today we are going to be doing a fabulous presentation, as you can tell behind me. We have 10 stores that go live, that have live classes in person, and we'd love for you to join us. We have 30 different classes every month all around the Seattle area. So just in case you don't know that, we'd love for you to join us in person because it's friends and fun.
Yes.
And prizes. So for one full week, starting today until next Thursday, which is July 6th, you can enjoy 20% off of all the notions that and products that we are going to be talking about today. And if you're not a Sew Fun member already, you should sign up because right now it's half price to sign up for your Sew Fun membership for the rest of the year. And don't forget, down at the bottom, to leave a comment because you will be entered into a prize drawing here on Sew Fun Live. And we have 2 prizes today. So with that, I'm going to pass the time over to Gail and Cindy, and they're going to have a great presentation for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kendra. Okay, so we're going to start out with our book. And what we did this time was the 2-color quilts. And so this makes it really easy to get your colors, and if you have problems matching colors and such, you've only got 2, maybe 3 if you include the creams. So this is the book, and what we did out of it was this is by Annie's Quilting, and this is Beacon in the Night, and so this is the one that I did, and it has 12 different cuts on each one. I got all of this material at Quality Sewing in Everett, and so it's supposed to look like lighthouse beacons. So it's not truly, it's 2 color tones, really. My suggestion is, because you've got 23 of these that you're making, is that you cut you do 2 cuts at a time. That way you don't have a whole bunch of material hanging there and getting mixed up, because some of them are the same color, and so that would be my suggestion. And the quilting I just did wonky lines. And then I did the back here. And so since it was Beacons in the Night, I thought a star night background would be good. And then I like to do a fold over binding, so bringing the back to the front, it gives a little bit extra. With this method, I was able to put the binding on here in 45 minutes.
Yeah, that's my favorite as well.
Yeah, and it always looks nice, front
all by machine.
All by machine, and front and back looks nice. Gail did
Liberty.
And so there's only really 2 blocks in this. You have the star block, and then you have the Irish chain. And what Gail did to change it up a little bit, because this 2 colors is just recommendations. That's why we sew, right? So we can make changes the way we want. So she took and fussy cut from her background, and put it in here. So we'll talk about the quilting a little bit later on. Gail will go through that. So I think that came out really nice. And then she did traditional.
No, I did the same.
Oh, you did the same? Oh, yes, you did. So she did fold over as well.
Yep. It's the only way to go.
That's right. The next ones on the book we did was Gail did hashtags. And this was in grays in the book. But she decided to do, it looks like a grunge and a green, blue grunge and gray. And then she just happened to have the hashtag in her stash. So that worked out really nice. And she did a nice ruffle, made it into a pillow, put in a zipper. And this quilting she'll discuss with this. So this all came from another book. So that was really good. And then I did, this is called
Always to the Point.
Always to the Point. That's where I got the Always to the Point. And I decided to make a pillow cover. And so I just used blues, and I don't know, I'm not a big blue and white person, but for some reason everything I did this month was blue and white. And so I did this up, and this quilting came from the book. I did free motion, but it's the same based off of what Gail's going to talk about there. And then I put an invisible zipper in. So obviously it was invisible because I couldn't find it. So just quilted, invisible zipper.
Yeah.
So this went together really fast and easy.
You can just
Oh, where should I put it? We'll just take it.
yeah.
So that's out of the book. And you're going to
Can you show the book one more time?
Sure,
I have
it's
a
right here.
question. All right, thank you.
By Annie's Quilting.
All right, and our second book dovetails with the first book, and while the first one is two-color quilts, you talk about the tops and how you put your blocks together. A lot of times those books, you know, will end with quilt as desired, right? So you're left on your own. So this is the quilting part of the quilt as desired. So this is going to give you some ideas on how to go ahead and finish that quilt. Now inside the book are lots of design ideas. There's 98 different little files in here, and they've got a quick snapshot look of all of those, but then back here they've got full page, right? If you took this design and multiplied it and nested them together, that's what your quilting would look like. So these are structured for either free motion or digital stitching. So this is a new book by Thomas Nauer, and Quilt Rhythm, the designs, there's instructions inside the book on how to go online and download the vector art. And those vector art images are what you're going to bring into your long arm digitizing software or your embroidery digitizing software to create embroidery designs that you can stitch out on your quilts or your projects. So if you don't have those options, they do have information on free motion quilting. So if you are going to free motion quilt, you could just study the book, do a little bit of practice for muscle memory, and just go out on your own. Or you could print those vector images and make stencils or some way transfer that information to your quilt so you had something to follow along. So if we go over to the machine, I have a couple of ideas on how free motion quilting can be benefited from a couple of our products. So we're set up over here with a quilt sandwich and a sew steady table. Now your machine might be in a cabinet with an insert, or maybe you have a store brand insert or extension table, but this one happens to be the acrylic sew steady tables. And although they are acrylic, they're not always super slippery, right? So what we want to do is have our surface slide and our quilt grip. And what I mean is we want our fabric to scoot around on here without any resistance. So we have polish, and this is from Sew Very Smooth, and you get a little tub of green paste, and you're going to take a little bit of that green paste on one rag and smear it on your acrylic table or your insert or your machine bed, whatever you like. You can take the other little rag and polish it out. And now that is super slippery, just like you wax your car. And once your surface is prepared, then your quilt will slide. Now on the top side we want to grip. So we have the Gypsy Quilter Fabulous Fabric Glide. And this comes in 2 sizes, and you get both of them in the box. So 1 package, 2 products. And this is basically a hoop without having to hoop your fabric. So it gives you handles on the top side, and it gives you little grippy things on the bottom side. So I'm going to use this size, and I'm just going to place it on my fabric. And what this does is it allows me to guide this around
without having to push very hard on my fabric. I don't have to stress my shoulders, my arms, and I'm set up for free motion. So we're just going to do a little bit of stitching. Now you may notice I'm just using my fingertips. When I'm ready to move to a different position, I can just pick it up and reposition. Now, free motion is not my favorite, so I like to go digital, right? So I took that book and I downloaded all of those vector art images, and I chose 10 of them that I made into this sampler. So I took these into my quilting software, or actually my embroidery digitizing software, and made embroidery designs out of them. And then I loaded them into my embroidery machine, and I stitched out 10 different hoopings, and then I cut them apart and put them back together into a sampler. I'm sorry, I don't know your sign language.
Just go ahead and mention that it's with the book.
Yes, so we're still working out of the same book. So these are the 98 different innovative designs. So again, vector art, I went online and I downloaded my vector art images, and this is a nice clean copy, so I don't, here we go, there's one I used. I don't have all my little post-it notes in there. So this one turned out to look like that. So after, it's actually sideways, there we go. After I digitized the 10 and stitched out those hoopings, I then chopped them apart and sewed them back together into my sampler, and this happens to be reversible. So I've got lots of different patterns to play with. So if you have long arm software, maybe you've got a tablet on your long arm with Pro Stitcher, you can also use that to download that vector art and create stitching lines with that, and with your long arm machine you can just stitch these quilt patterns back and forth with the long arm. Okay. Thread choice is also something to think about. There's different weights of thread that you can use, and just do out a little sew test. This one has 4 different weights of thread. I ended up using King Tote color 941, which is a quilting thread 40 weight, when I did my sampler. And then I did a little bit lighter 40 weight Madeira thread that I have on the machine over here. You can see that later when I embroidered out the quilt. So same thing, I took an 11th design out of there besides those 10 and digitized it to fit the different shapes on the quilt. So this was entirely quilted in the hoop on the embroidery machine. To assemble the sampler, I decided to make myself a pattern. So I took some craft paper and I drew out my final shape. I drew my lines in and then my curve, and I cut the pieces apart. I numbered them so I would know where they go back together. But I just used these as pattern pieces to cut out those shapes and then reassemble. I didn't need seam allowances because I just used those raw edges. They're already quilted, so all of that work was done, and I used fusible bias tape to put my little edges together. So I zigzagged first. And then to cover up all of those stitches, I used fusible bias tape on top and on the bottom. And then I was able to top stitch and catch both at the same time. So, all right. Cindy? Don't forget that's on.
Nope. Don't want to do that. So we brought in, by OESD, Jim Shore farm animals for the embroidery. And these came out really cute. So did them on several. We did them on our tea towels. And so we have the tea towels. We have yellow and pink and this green and the turquoise. And so I did the cats, and I put them in the corner because they have this wonderful loop here that you can hang it from. So I wanted it, if you hung it that way, that they showed. So I did the cats, and Gail did, so that was one cat, and here's the other cat. And these stitched out beautifully. I had no breakage at all. They stitch, it takes about 30 minutes for each one. I just used a tearaway, medium tearaway on the back, so they're still soft. And these are just polyester threads, but the way they're digitized, they give a sheen so that they look, I've had people ask me, did you use Mylar in there, or did you use metallic thread? There's no metallic. These are just, I just used Madeira polyester thread on them, and they come out really nice, I think. So Gail did the horse, and I think it looks like a little carousel horse. And she did the pig, which just is really cute. Everybody has loved this pig. And again, no metallic, just the polyester threads. And then she did the lamb. And isn't that just a little cute face on that lamb? I could see you putting this on the corner of a receiving blanket for a new mom. It's just so cute. So it's not just cute things in here, and it's not just farm animals, because I think the horse, like I said, looks like a carousel, but it's a wide range, and I kind of like that. Okay. So then also, I took and we did the Anything Goes table toppers. And these were a lot of fun. So Gail did this one, and she appliqued the turtles on, which came from our turtles pattern that we'll be talking about a little bit later on too. And she added some bling and little beads, and so that's really cute. This is the large. I can get it down. So she did the large. Here's the back. And I did two mediums. So I did this one, and I had this material in my stash because I had made some pot holders with it in the shape of a chicken. And so I put the chicken in here, and I did the rooster up here. And then the back I just did here. And so I have a multi-needle machine, and I have this chicken wire in just black and white. Well, the multi-needle machines, the Brother and the Baby Lock, have these little snowmen that are help for perfect placement. And in the black and white, it couldn't find my snowman. So I had to go to the colored one. I really wanted to do the black and white because there was so much color, but it wouldn't pick it up. It would see it, it'd go past it, but it wouldn't register it. So these were really cute. So with those, we have, and come over, oh, thank you, I always forgot this one, Gail. So Gail did this one. This is the small.
Extra small.
Extra small. And this was the material, but she had to bling it up a little bit. She had to put some rhinestones on there, and they have little ones for their eyes. And then she fussy cut one of the little guys and put them on the candle. And of course she had to put a little bling on there as well. So those were cute. Those were kind of fun to do. So we're going to go over, they have these corners were very, very easy to do on here. And there's a technique called perfect point, perfect corner. I don't remember what she called it. But we're going to go over to the machine and I'll show you how you do that. And are we on free motion still?
Nope, I can do that.
Thank you. So you're gonna sew your.
Although we can get you a quarter inch if you want.
Nah, I'm fine. You're gonna sew your first seam. And then you're going to fold it over just about a ½ inch or so, just enough to catch it in there. And then you sew your next seam. And of course you're going to press all of this. So let's go over to the iron. You're going to press this. And then in the book, she says, don't use anything sharp. You just use your finger, your index finger, your thumb, and you turn it. And you kind of squeeze it around. And there's actually, you can do it down both sides, and you play it around, but you're going to end up getting a perfect point. Just like that. And of course you're going to press it. And do you have that sheet that you did with the perfect point? Oh, it's over here. So Gail made this nice little handout, so you can see it step by step.
And the information's in the pattern.
And the information is in the pattern, exactly. Anything else? Did we get it? Oh. So these, I love these pens, these pencils for dark fabric. And so marking dark fabric, and I used it on here, marking dark fabric can be really difficult because you might have yellow to mark it with, but it doesn't really show up well. But this, you let it come down here, you mark it, and you just iron it away. And it won't, like a friction, unlike a friction pen, this won't come back when it gets cold. And this was designed for fabric. So that is the OSD perfect, for perfect 2 iron-on pencils. I call it the OSD perfect pencil.
Okay, you want to do the turtles?
Sure, we can go to the turtles. So, I love applique. I really, really like applique. And this is the turtles. Turtles. And this is by Connie Spurlock and Terry Chandler. And Connie is always at Sew Expo, so you can see hers. And she likes to do a lot of this. So I did this wall hanging. And in the directions it says for 14 different batiks, and you're going to make 14 turtles, but you only use 7 in each. The other cutting instructions are only for 7. only did 7 because I don't need an extra 7 turtles running around my sewing room. I'm sure everybody has lots of room for those. But and then in the book, on the cover, you can see where she has them going all different ways. I like to think of them as baby turtles when they're first hatched, and they hatch in mass, and they just go to the water. They instinctively, mine are all baby turtles going to the water. And I just used a monofilament and did a blanket stitch around. And I mean, I really, applique is my go-to for a lot of things. And so in the applique, we brought in, I'm going to do a couple things with that. We brought in the Wonder Fuse fusible. And I've used other brands, but what I really like about this brand is that the paper doesn't separate from the backing like some of the other brands do. So I've had them separate, and then I have to give it a little bit of heat so that it'll stay on. So this doesn't do that. We also have then the applique pressing sheet, and you can't have too many of these. I counted. I have 8 of them around my sewing room because I use them for applique, but I use them for anything that might be a little messy because they will clean off easily. And so I have one for my hot glue gun, and I used this for my hot glue gun, and when it dried, you can't even, oh, here it is. You can't even see it on there, but it just rolls off, so it's really easy to use. In these directions, so when I first started applique, I'd cut out everything, and then I got the pattern, and I'm trying to figure out where everything goes. And then somebody said, well, in the directions, it shows how you can, it has this little angel, and you can cut out all your pieces, you can put this underneath, and you can see through it. And so then you take the backing off, and you lightly attach it to here, and then the whole thing comes up in one piece. It was like, oh, that's a game changer. Because, you know, wind would blow, and a piece would go, or you'd move, I'd move, and so that was really exciting to find. So I'm going to show an applique, just because I like applique so much. And
What do you need?
it was just here. I had my piece of material,
The yellow?
yellow, yes, and then I had a piece of this cut. Where'd it go? It went somewhere. Can you cut me a piece of just the applique of the? I just had it in my hand, didn't I? Yes, there it is. Okay, sorry about that. So when you do this, you're going to draw on the paper side. I also have a flat light box that I use, and if you don't have that, you can just tape it up to the window and see through it. But I'm just going to draw a simple heart here. And when you do applique, you have to make sure if the pattern pieces are reversed or not, because you're going to iron this onto the back side. So when you do this, you're going to cut it out roughly. You're not going to cut right on the line. You're going to cut around it, because you're going to cut really close to it. So I'm going to take this piece, and I'm going to put it right on here, and this takes about 10 seconds. Actually, I don't even think I ever left it on for 10 seconds. I think 5 or 6. This is now when you're going to cut right on the line. So you're going to cut out your piece. And if you're doing it free motion, you don't even have to, freehand, you don't even have to worry about cutting right. Cut out a little bit more. So now you're going to take that paper off the back. And I just take my scissors or a pen and just score it. Peels right off. And then, you see this? Okay. You're going to put this wherever you want, and you're going to press. So you see where you have to make sure if it's reversed or not. Something like this, it doesn't matter if the pattern's reversed, but if you're doing a face or something like that, you do. So then you need to sew it down if you're using material. So a lot of people will just do a straight stitch, or you can use a zigzag or a satin stitch or any of your utility stitches. So I really like using the utility stitches. On here, I just did a blanket stitch. So we're going to go over to the sewing machine. I'll show you. And you want to be right close. So I'm just going to do a straight stitch. So you just want to be real close. And this is where, if you're having problems, you can use those grippers that we have. You want to get close to the edge, but you don't want to get off the edge. If you're doing a straight stitch. If you're doing a satin stitch, then you're going to, and you want to have needle down. If you're going to do a satin stitch, then you're going to be close to the edge and just go off a little bit. And I'm using a contrasting color so that you can see it. But if you use a monofilament, you don't have to worry about that. And if you get a good monofilament, then you don't even have to worry about breakage. I did that entire quilt with monofilament, and I did the quilting here with monofilament and just the little waves, and I had no breakage at all. So that was really easy. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Gail.
All right, so exciting. All this fun stuff. And don't forget, you gotta have towels, right? Pink, yellow, blue, and green. Okay, we had so much fun. Now, the last turtle, I took those paper patterns out of the turtle pattern, so that is a do-it-yourself paper pattern, and put them in my scan and cut in order to get the turtles on my little table mat. So these are 75%. I was able to shrink them down, cut them out of fabric with my Wonderfuse on there, and then I just went further. I squished them some more, and I cut them out of iron-on vinyl and put them on a towel. So this is that material that will press right into fabric. It's washable, and you're all good to go. Okay, so now we are going to twist around to a little bit different theme and talk about the twister projects we have back here. So twister technique has been out for a while, and that is a template that was created by the Twister sisters, and they have multiple sizes. And like I said, they've been around for a long time, but we have 3 sizes here today. We went small. So we have mini, tiny, and itty bitty. So each of these works the same way, and then we have a couple of patterns that we're going to use them with. But I'm going to start out with the technique. So each of these rulers has a little quick project inside and gives you something to start with and, you know, figure out how they're done. And I started with the middle of the 3 sizes and did that little free project. Here is the mini. Here is the tiny. And here's the itty bitty. So you can see those a little bit better on this piece of paper. Okay, now what are these? These are templates that let you create beautiful pinwheel designs without having to cut any weird trapezoid shaped pieces, right? To create this whole thing, all I had to cut was squares, and all I had to sew was squares. It just depends on how you cut them out and where you put them. So we'll come back to that in just a minute. So the first thing I'm going to do is build a grid, right? So in this colorway, every single square that I've cut and sewn together is a different color. And this is exactly the same size and the same color arrangement that I used to make this finished product. So we'll get there. Now, I don't know if you can get close. I've taken a friction pen. I'm not ready to cut into this particular one just yet, but I have marked out on every corner here where I will cut a square. So every template has these crosshairs on it, right? So if I were squared up, I would tilt it so those crosshairs line up against the intersection on my corner, right? Every time I have an intersection of my fabrics, that's why I need a border around here, I'm going to cut another square. And then when I rotate them back, I'm going to get a pinwheel. So I think you doubt me, right? So I'm going to show you the magic. And I'm going to do one here in a minute, but before I do that, this is going to illustrate how well that works. So here are the edges of a blue square, right? You have to imagine that there's still fabric in here. And this is where I have cut every intersection around a project, and this is where I had my first square. When I rotate these back and sew them back together, I have a pinwheel. So now that we've done the end, we're going to go back to the beginning again. So I did create this, cut out all of those squares. So a couple things are important. One is accurate points in the centers where you piece them together, because that's going to show. And the other is, once you cut them out, you're going to definitely want to lay them out exactly in the same order that you cut them in. Otherwise, you'll have a jigsaw puzzle. So that turned into that. So I just made this one into a little hot pad. It's got insole brightener, and I can put a casserole on it. But we're going to move along. Each of the blocks in this particular sample are different. And we have nesting pinwheels. Now, in the next project, I changed things up a little bit, and every other square was a different color, and every other square was the same color. So what that does is it changes up those pinwheels. This particular fabric ended up in the pinwheels on the side of this tote. So you can see how this blue, or teal, becomes the background, and the blue, green, yellow, and pink pinwheels just kind of float to the surface. So they look like they're independent. But I still have a pinwheel there and a pinwheel there. They're all created exactly the same way. We'll come back to the tote in just a second. So I mentioned patterns, and I am going to cut into this one. So if you want to get a little bit closer. So I've got those crosshairs, and I'm going to line them up right here on this corner. And then I'm going to use a very small rotary cutter. Today I have Nifty Notions 28 millimeter. And this one has a guard that is split. I've never seen this before. So you push the button and pull it back, and it looks like a little mouth. right? Little eyeball. I think it looks like a little bird. So I'm going to pull that back, and I'm going to cut around my little template. So my rotary cutter mat is a rotating mat so that I can do all 4 sides without having to cut backwards like I shouldn't do. And once I've gone through all 4 sides, this part is going to go away, and I'm left with that block, which I'm then going to, pivot and put back into my pinwheel project. So that's how that works, and having that rotary mat is just super handy. And I love the little rotary cutter. Okay, so the patterns are the tote bag pattern. Now you can use any of these rulers to make any of these projects or any other patterns out there. You're just going to get a different result size-wise depending on how big the templates are. So the tote bag was done here, 2 color. The blue tends to kind of sink to the background, and the pink becomes your prominent pinwheel. And this one has the pretty fabric on the edge and the solid here in the strip down the middle. We have a snap closure, and these are magnetic snaps. We have them in nickel, which is a silvery color. We have them in gold, and we have them in gunmetal, which is kind of a dark black color. And those are going to be 2 to a package, 2 sets, so you've got 2 of each side, and the washers that you need to assemble them with. And I used the same pattern for my tote. I just changed up where I put my pinwheels. Instead of down the center, I used a focus fabric down the center and put the pinwheels on the edges. And the other thing I changed was the bottom. So instead of boxing the bottom at 4 inches, I boxed it at 7. It just fell into line with my seam lines here, and it makes it shorter and deeper, but it is the same pattern. So both of these have the Annie's Soft and Stable as the stabilizer in the outside of the bag, and that is one of our foam products. It really makes nice, stable, soft bags. They stand up on their own, but they're not going to look crinkly and very stiff. So I have that quilted into the outside of the bag. On the inside of the bag, to stabilize my lining and my pockets, I used a product called SF101, and we also sell that. It comes in several forms, but one of them is a little package like this. So this is a fusible interfacing. It's going to fuse in and stay, but the bag has these nice pockets, and you can set your dividers at any stage that you'd like. There's my snap, and because it was so deep, I put a plastic bottom in it to make it a little bit stiffer, but I also added a couple of extra snaps. So I have the original one to close the bag, but I didn't want my bag to sit out like this. I wanted it to tuck in, so in order for it to stay, I put an extra snap on each end that kind of keeps it where I want it. So when I need the space, just pop it open, and they all come apart.
And you added an extra pocket.
I did have an extra little pocket in there, so secret pocket. So that was just a simple little fold over pocket with a zipper, so when you sew it on, that creates a pocket here, but I also have the zipper part of the pocket there. So gotta have one that's secure, right? Gotta have those little zippers for all of that stuff. Okay. Thank you. Now, to keep track of my little rulers, I have my ruler rack, and I jokingly say you can keep all your rulers in here, but if you're anything like me, this is only going to be a small fraction of the rulers that you have, but it definitely will hold the ones that you're working with at any given time, but it will just keep them stable. So it takes big ones and little ones and tall ones and short ones, and Cindy's going to share another tip here in a minute. But yeah, lots and lots of rulers, and the whole thing doesn't go anywhere. So great, great option there. Now the third thing that you can make, or the third kind of progression, you've got every square is different, every other square is different, and then you can start building pictures. So this is the little flower garden table runner, and if you use the tiny ruler, which is the medium sized for us today, then you're going to get a table runner, and if you use the itty bitty, you're going to get this little wall hanging. So Cindy made the table runner, and it is up here on the wall in pretty fairy frost and pretty colors. So same method, it's all done the same way, but you're going to start with something that looks kind of like your final result in square form. So this is my flower that then gets cut. This is what's left when you're done. So this is the scrap. There's a bit. Then you rotate those pieces back to make your pinwheel. And this is the final little flower. So when I did this one, I did the traditional press everything to one side and didn't trim anything. When I got it all done, it was a little lumpy bumpy. I didn't really care for it as much as I would. Whenever you're working really, really small, you need to think about reducing bulk in your seams and pressing things open. So I did a second one, and I still sewed 1/4 inch, but I trimmed it down to 1/8, and then I pressed all of my seams open, and it lays much flatter, and it really does feel a lot better. So think about that when you're working small. All right, Cindy, did you have anything to add to the twister saga?
No, it's just, it was more fun than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
One nice thing, and other people had said that they bought some in the past and they slid,
Oh, okay, yes.
but these have little feet. So if you turn them without the feet, they move. But when you put the feet down,
They
the
don't
material,
slip.
they don't slip. So
Yeah.
people were really excited about these
Yeah.
having little feet.
And they come that way.
Exactly, they come that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd forgotten. And they know that when you're going to do this technique that you're going to be straddling a seam. So they give you that so they don't rock back and forth. So,
I was going to show you the binding.
yep,
Okay? Is that it on the twister?
I believe so.
Okay. So because Dale and I both like to bring the back of the quilt to the front for the binding, I'm going to show that real quick. And so you're going to quilt your material. You're going to quilt it as you go, like you normally do. And then you're going to pull back. And you want to cut your batting. So you're going to cut your batting about half. Yeah, let's see, how much did I do here? 1.5 inches. You're just going to cut it back to where it intersects here. And I really did like this. Make sure that you don't have your back in there. You want to make sure that's pulled all the way back. You want to pull that all the way back to the seam line. And I'm just going to trim this a bit. And I'm going to sure it's turned all sides. That. And then I'm going to do this side. I'm just going to do two sides. Pull that here. There. So then, I don't throw away my batting unless it's really small pieces like this. So then what you're going to do is now you're going to cut the backing, your back material, 1 inch. So I can cut off some more of this. 1 inch from the edge of your quilt block. Too much. And then what you do is you're going to fold this over. Let me do the other side. I didn't cut that side. You're going to fold it over. And this is going to give you a nice 1/4 inch. You're going to fold that over. And you press it. And then you fold it again here. So you fold it in half so it just butts up against, it just kisses the edge of your quilt. You press that down. And then what I like to do is I like to take, we brought this in a couple months ago, Roxanne's. I like the Roxanne glue stick, and I just run a bead of glue across there. I press that down, just enough to hold it. And then when you get to this end, what you're going to do is you're going to fold this over before you. You're going to fold this over. You're going to press it. That's why I like to have a wool pressing mat right next to me when I'm doing this. And you're going to put a little bit of glue on the back side of that. Fold it down. Then you're going to do the same thing. Let's get this. You're going to fold this over just so that it kisses. I'm going to glue that. And then when you turn this over, this would be so much better if it was a pressing cutting.
Yeah.
You're going to get, if you do it correctly, you're going to get a very nicely mitered corner. And then you just take it to the machine. Over here. Again, I'm just going to stitch that down. I usually will cut my thread there. And then we're going to go right down. And if you want to, you can catch that with a little hand stitching. I don't do that unless it's going to be a quilt that's going to be used. But here you have a really nice, without having to cut binding and then fold it over. And then, oh yeah, you want to do, yeah. Oh, one other thing. I'm sorry, we're being talked. So I really like this, and this is an 18 by 18. So you can hold the 18 by 18. But what I also found is when I was doing some of the patterns and such, that I could put the book or the pattern up there and it held it in place so I wasn't accidentally going to cut it and I didn't put anything over top of it. So this is really nice, and it's got these little cubbies here that you can throw your pins or whatever else you want.
Wonderful.
So this holds a lot.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of sizes.
Yes.
All right, so our last item is going to be our pattern, and this is the Jolly Korean Raglan sweater, and this is a multi-sized pattern. So your pattern pieces come on a sheet like this, and you're going to trace them out. Of course, tracing paper is always helpful. Swedish tracing paper is even better because you can sew it. But the instructions are here. They're very well written, and this is a multi-size pattern. All of their patterns go from a size 2, which is a children's size 2, which is right here, all the way up to an adult 22. So you can make one for the entire family. This is a pattern, depending on your fabrics, it could be for a boy or a girl, men, women, so you can make one for everyone. This is the short style. This is the long style, the one I'm wearing. You can have it with pockets or without, 2-year-old pockets, you get all sorts of weird things in a 2-year-old's pocket. So. And then you can put snaps or buttons on it or not, your choice. So this one is an extra large, 18 to 20, nice long sleeves, and fits well and very easy to put together. So
She has really nice instructions on her website, and so she has nice instructions on her website and a video on each step of the construction. So because her instructions are in English and in French because it's Canadian. So I found that it was a little harder to do. So you can download the PDF in English, and then she has the videos that shows you step-by-step
Oh,
construction.
nice. Yeah, I found English, or I found pictures. I sew by pictures, so.
Right.
But there is English in the pattern as well, but yeah, I hadn't gone to the website, so good information. All right, we have winners we need to announce. Was there any comments that we had, or questions we had to
One
answer?
question about the sweater, did you serge it, or?
I did, yes. So if you have a serger, it certainly makes things more faster and easier. So on the inside, anything that's constructed, side seams, this seam here, we're all done on the serger overlock. And then I used a cover stitch to top stitch the band and do the hem and sew everything else down. And then the only thing I used a sewing machine for was to put the pocket on. All right.
And this is a very nice, comfy. So
Yes.
this one she did in a knit, and this is a polar fleece. So
Yeah, so it does need to have a little bit of stretch, but it can be done with pretty much any fabrics. So,
you do one, I do one.
yeah. All right.
Do we have
so-
any other questions that came up? Okay.
Wonderful. So this is our Log Cabin Improv book, and this is going to go to Carrie Lemon. And Carrie, if you want to send us a quick comment and let us know which store you'd like to pick this up in, or how we can contact you, that would be great. Congratulations.
And then the next one is the 4th of July fabric bundle. So it's got, it looks like Old Town, and it's got tractors, so it looks like a parade, actually. So, and this is going to Julie Valdez Vernon. So again, Julie, if you can drop us a note where you want to pick this up, we'll make sure that this gets to you.
All right. Well, another month gone, and it's June, so enjoy your summer. And it was good to be here again. We'll see you next time.